प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्ण। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणरघुनाथां वतं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधां कृष्णपादां सहगणरघुनाथां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषं शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा। So we are beginning with Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, and mm, we will be doing this in English. And this is for my own nourishment. Uh, yeah, I will not be doing it. So this is for my own nourishment, and I will be reading all through the whole of Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the chapters. We will see whatever Krishna allows us to serve, and whatever lessons various devotees have brought out, we will try to see that also. And anyone comes online or later on sees, uh, that's to your benefit. But this is for, as of now, personally for my own growth. So we are reading from uh, okay. Okay, so Yeah, so we will read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I'll just share the screen with you. Hope you're able to see something. Don't know how will I scroll this. So before I don't, this particular thing is not showing what I'm going to read. So I will just read some things. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Volume 1, Chapter number. Before we go to chapter number, we will go to the introduction by the publishers. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the principal work on the life and teachings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the pioneer of the great social and religious movement that began in India about 500 years ago, and that has directly or indirectly influenced the subsequent course of religious and philosophical thinking, not only in India but throughout the world. So, this throughout the world was done by Srila Prabhupada. So, that Sri Krishna Chaitanya's influence has spread so far due to the large part of the efforts of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The present work's translator and commentator and the founder and the acharya of the international societies for Krishna consciousness. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thus a figure of great historical significance. However, our conventional method of historical analysis, that of seeing a man as a product of his times, fails here. For Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personality who transcends the limited scope of historical settings. At a time when in the West, man was directing explorative spirits towards studying the structure of physical universe and circumnavigating the world in search of new oceans and continents, Sri Krishna Chaitanya in the East was inaugurating and masterminding a revolution directed inward towards a scientific understanding of highest knowledge of the man's spiritual nature. The chief historic sources for the life of Sri Chaitanya are the Kadachas or the diaries kept by Murari Gupta and Swarup Damodar Goswami. Murari Gupta, a physician or a doctor and close associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, recorded extensive notes on the first 24 years of his life. That means Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas at the age of 24. So till the age of 24, Murari Gupta was in touch, close association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. दोनों का घर एकदम पास था. So culminating in his initiation to the renounced order of sannyas. The events of the rest of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's 48 years were recorded in a diary of Swarup Damodar Goswami, another of his intimate associates. So last 24 years, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed with Swarup Damodar Goswami in Puri. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is divided into 3 sections. This is important. Called Leelas, Adi Leela, Madhya Leela, Ante Leela. Word that literally means past times. The Adi Leela, Madhya Leela, and Ante Leela. Adi means the first, Madhya means the middle period, Ante Leela means the final period. The notes of Murari Gupta form the basis of the Adi Leela, and Swarup Damodar's diary provides the details of Madhya and Ante Leela. So what we will be understanding today is from the Madhya Leela, that is from the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya at Jagannath Puri after taking sannyas. So we will see how he took sannyas and he goes to Jagannath Puri also in the 3rd chapter. The first 12 chapters of the Adi Leela constitute the preface of the entire work. So 12 chapters is preface. This is Adi Leela ka. So we will not see that. By referring the Vedic evidence, Krishnadas Kaviraj established Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Avtara or incarnation of God at the age of Kali, the current approach, which began 5,000 years ago and characterized as materialism, hypocrisy, and dissension. So Kali Yuga is having materialism, hypocrisy, and dissension. So Chaitanya Charitamrita was written, in the Kali Yuga, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also appeared in the Kali Yuga only. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's avatar in the golden avatar at the black dark age of Kali, like that. So the author also provides Chaitanya Mahaprabhu an identical to Lord Chaitanya. Sorry, the author also proves. So author Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is proving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is identical to Lord Chaitanya and explains that he descends to liberally grant the fallen souls of the degraded age of pure love of God, propagating Sankirtana, that is congregational glorification of Lord, especially by organizing mass public chanting of the Mahamantra. So this is special That means Nam Sankirtan, great chant for deliverance. In addition, in the 12th chapter preface, Krishnadas Kaviraj reveals the esoteric purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance to the world, describes his co-avatars and principal devotees, and summarizes his teachings. In the remaining portion of Adi Lila, chapter 13 through 17, author briefly recounts Lord Chaitanya's divine birth and his life until he accepted sannyas. That is 24 एज को आदि लीला में सिर्फ hardly how many 7 chapters, right? 13 through 17, 13 14 15 16 17 5 chapters में पूरा 24 साल जो महाप्रभु के हैं वो उन्होंने बता दिया. क्यों बता दिया? Because there is another devotee who is known as the Vyasdeva of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. That is known as, he is actually who? That is Vrindavan Das Thakur and already Lochan Das Thakur. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is the Vyasdeva of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So he has already written the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that was previously known as Chaitanya Mangal. So that's why Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was thinking, why should I again rewrite the same pastimes again? I will only write that which he could not write because he went to ecstasy, when he wrote the last part. So the Antilila of the Chaitanya Bhagavat is having very less pastimes because he just could not go further because he was in ecstasy. So that's why Chaitanya Charitamrita was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami under the instructions of various Vaishnavas and the blessings of the Lord himself, for the pleasure of the devotees at large, and he also wrote it for very immense contribution, without which it was very difficult to get through the knowledge of the Lord, after he took sannyas. So yeah, so this account includes childhood miracles, schooling, marriage, and early philosophical confrontation, as well as his organization of a widespread Sankirtana movement and his civil disobedience against the repression of the Muslim government. So all this is included in the 5 chapters, which I was thinking we will begin from there. This is the Adi Lila, last 5 chapters. I was thinking we'll begin from there, but then I thought we will do this later because this lots of these pastimes are given in very short, and our Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that you go back to Chaitanya Bhagavat, and because already the pastimes have been described sufficiently, so I will not go into details. So then, although this is there, but then I thought we will do this later. So first we will do Madhya Lila. It is very descriptive and analytical also. And then Ante Lila, and then we'll come to Adi Lila. So anyways, so now, yeah, the Madhya Lila, the longest of the 3 divisions, this is the Madhya Lila, narrates in details the Lord Chaitanya's extensive and eventful travels throughout India as a renounced mendicant, teacher, philosopher, spiritual preceptor, and mystic. तो ये मध्य लीला बहुत डिटेल्स में बताता है, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's main pastimes of preaching pastimes is there in the Madhya Lila. And Ante Lila consists of some nice dealings with the Lord and his personal associate. And later part of Ante Lila is something that we cannot understand. Neither I have the capacity to explain, nor anyone has the capacity to understand, because that is very esoteric. Last, chapter 13 onwards, chapter 13 to 22 of Ante Lila, we cannot understand. It's very tough, very difficult, very esoteric, beyond our jurisdiction to intervene. So during the 6 years, during a period of 6 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu transmits his teaching and to his principal disciples. He debates and converts many of the renowned philosophers and theologians of his times including the Shankarites, the Buddhists, the Muslims, and incorporates their many thousands of followers and disciples to his own burgeoning numbers. The author also includes in this section a dramatic account of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's miraculous activities at the giant Rath Yatra festival at Jagannath Puri, Odisha. The Antilila concerns last 18 years of Lord Chaitanya's manifest presence. So this Adi Lila, kitna chapters? 13 to 17 is first 24 years of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Madhya Lila, whole of Madhya Lila, which consists of 5 big volumes like this, about 25 odd chapters, 24 chapters. So that is only 6 years of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then last 18 years is that which we will read in the Ante Leela, which was spent in semi-seclusion near the famous Jagannath temple at Puri. So at Jagannath temple, near that there is a place known as Gambhira. So there's where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed for many years, and there all these pastimes were manifested. During these final years, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya drifted deeper and deeper into trances of spiritual ecstasy, unparalleled in all of the religious and literary history, Eastern or Western. जितने भी historical philosophies हैं, उनसे कुछ, and there is no parallel to this which is being exhibited by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eastern history or Western, whatever. His perpetual and ever-increasing religious beatitude, graphically described in the eyewitness account of Swarup Damodar Goswami, his constant companion during this period, clearly defy the investigative and descriptive abilities of modern psychologists and phenomenologists of religious experience. क्या क्या हो सकता है religious experiences से वो चाहे Western philosophers हो या Eastern philosophers, it is extremely difficult for them to come up to this standard. This is what is being told here. The author of this great classic, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, this is about the author, born around the beginning of 16th century, was a disciple of Raghunath Das Goswami, a confidential follower of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Raghunath Das, a renowned ascetic saint, heard and memorized all the activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told to him by Swarup Damodar Goswami. After the passing away of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodara, Raghunath Das, unable to bear the pain of separation from these objects of his complete devotion, traveled to Vrindavan, intending to commit suicide by jumping from the Govardhan hill. In Vrindavan, however, he encountered Sri Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, two of the most confidential disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They convinced him to give up his planned suicide and impelled him to reveal to them the spiritually inspiring events of Lord Chaitanya's later life. So, Raghunath Das Goswami is a very confidential associate of Lord. Very soon on 12th we are celebrating Panihati Chodadahi festival. So that was a festival of Raghunath Das Goswami. So he happens to kind of reveal the truths of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Raghunath Das Goswami. Swarup Damodar Goswami, the personal confidential servant of Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is giving this knowledge. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he was wanting to commit suicide. मुझे भगवान के बगैर रहा नहीं चाह रहा है. I better die. But then the devotees told, nahi, better you share the pastimes of the Lord, which is not different than the Lord, so that we also get the nectar and you also are able to relish. So please don't commit suicide. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is also residing in Vrindavan at this time, and Raghunath Das Goswami endowed with him full comprehension of the transcendental life of Lord Chaitanya. By this time, contemporary and near contemporary scholars and devotees had already written several biography on the works on the life of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. This included Sri Chaitanya Charita by Murari Gupta, Chaitanya Mangala by Lochan Das Thakur, and Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur, who was then considered the principal authority on Sri Chaitanya's life. And this book, Chaitanya Bhagavat, was highly revered. While composing this important work, Vrindavan Das, fearing that it would become too voluminous, avoided elaborately describing many of the events of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lives, particularly the later ones. Anxious to hear these later pastimes, the devotees in Vrindavan requested Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, whom they respected as a great saint and scholar, to compose a book narrating these episodes in detail. Upon this request, and with the permission and blessings of Sri Madan Mohan deity of Vrindavan, he began compiling Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which, due to its literary excellence and philosophical thoroughness, is today universally regarded as the foremost work on the life and profound teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami commenced work on the text at a very advanced age and in a failing health, and he vividly described in the text itself. Chaitanya Charitamrita लिखते हुए Chaitanya Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, I have now become too old and disturbed by invalidity. While writing, my hands tremble. I cannot remember anything, nor can I see or hear properly. Still I write, and this is a great wonder, that he completed the greatest literary gem of medieval India under such deliberating conditions is surely one of the wonders of literary history. Yes. As mentioned above, this English translation and commentary is the work of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the world's most distinguished teacher of Indian religious and philosophical thought. Srila Prabhupada's commentary is based upon two Bengali commentaries by his guru, one by his guru Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, and the eminent Vedic scholar, teacher, and saint who predicted the time will come when people from all over the world will learn Bengali to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the other by Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's father, that is Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who pioneered the propagation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching in the modern era. Srila Prabhupada himself, a disciplic descendant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is the first scholar to execute systematic English translations on the major works of Sri Chaitanya followers, Sri Chaitanya's followers, right? So, Chaitanya's followers. Okay. His consummate Bengali and Sanskrit scholarship and intimate familiarity with the precepts of Sri Krishna Chaitanya are fitting combination that eminently qualifies him to present this important classic to the English-speaking world. So why is Prabhupada so special? Is because he is coming from a Bengali background and also he knows Sanskrit very properly and English also, and he also knows the teachings and thoughts and the mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That makes him the best person to present this Chaitanya Charitamrita to the English-speaking world. The ease and clarity with which he expounds upon difficult philosophical concepts enable even a reader totally unfamiliar with the Indian religious tradition to understand and appreciate this profound and monumental work. कितने आसानी से कितना गहरा concept समझा देते हैं वो. That is the specialty of Srila Prabhupada. The entire text with commentary present in 9 lavishly illustrated volumes by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust represents a contribution of major importance to the intellectual cultural and spiritual life of contemporary men. So this is the introduction. Now we will read chapter number 1. Chapter number 1 के पहले एक छोटा सा पैराग्राफ है, वो हम एक बार देख लेते हैं. In this chapter, there is a summary description of all the pastimes performed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the middle period of his activities, as well as the 6 years at the end of his activities. Okay, all this are described in brief. There is also a description of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy that occurred when he recited this verse beginning, Yah Kumara Hara, Kaumara Hara, as well as a description of how that ecstasy was explained in the verse beginning of Priya So Yam Krishna by Sri Rupa Goswami. Because he wrote that verse, Rupa Goswami is especially blessed by the Lord. There is also a description of many books written by Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami. There is also a description of meeting between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Rupa Goswami and Sri Sanatana Goswami in the village known as Ramakeli. So this is the introduction. अभी हम ये चैतन्य सुबोधिनी है, इसमें हम थोड़ा एक बार देख लेते हैं what is मध्य लीला. So about the Madhya Lila 1, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is divided into 3 sections. Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, Ante Lila. It is based on the notes of Murari Gupta and Swarup Damodar Goswami. So Murari Gupta formed the basis of Adi Lila and Swarup Damodar Goswami's diary from the basis of Madhya and Ante Lila, which is Madhya and Ante Lila को एक साथ अगर बोला जाए तो उसको बोलते हैं शेष लीला. So first 12 chapters okay हो गया. Okay. Yeah. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wasn't confident that he will live long enough to write the later pastimes of Lord Chaitanya elaborately. Therefore, he summarized all of them right at the onset of Madhya Lila, and elaborates further in the rest of Madhya and Ante Leelas. A summary of this description is as follows. The devotees visited Jagannath Puri every year for the Rath Yatra, during which Lord Chaitanya would manifest ecstatic symptoms in the mood of Radharani and recite various verses in separation of Krishna. The Lord also went to the tour of South India, where he converted the people into Vaishnavism. He fulfilled his long cherished desire to visit Vrindavan, and on his return journey, he instructed Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis in devotional service, sending them to Vrindavan. Back in Puri, the Lord performed various pastimes with his devotees and spent his final 12 years in seclusion, experiencing transcendental ecstasy in the mood of Radharani in her separation from Krishna. So this is the summary of first 2 chapters of Madhya Lila. So now we will enter the nectar of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this first chapter is talking about the synopsis of the whole of Madhya Lila. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, 92 years old when he is writing this book, and he is wondering that before I die, I should give this book to everyone. But then what is happening is, Krishnadas Goswami, Kaviraj Goswami is feeling that even before I end this book, I may die. That's why he is writing the first 2 chapters, by himself. And he is wondering that if I die before completing this whole work, then also at least the devotees are having a synopsis of the 2 chapters of the Adi and Ante Lila. And that's the way this whole 2 chapters are. So let us enter within this nectarian pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with a prayer and seeking blessings of Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and all the 6 Goswamis, and also the Acharyas, especially Narottam Das Thakur, Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and also Srinivas Acharya and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and also our dear Shri Prabhupada And bowing our head at the lotus feet, let us seek for their blessings, by the grace of which we can understand the transcendental pastimes of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. So now we will see Chaitanya Charitamrita. Text 1. Yasya prasadat agyampi sadhya sarvagyatam vijit Shri Chaitanya Devo me sa Shri Chaitanya Devo me Bhagavan samprasidatau. Even a person with no knowledge can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, I am praying to the Lord for his causeless mercy upon me. So, this is the mode of helplessness of Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, that he is praying to the Lord for his causeless mercy upon me. For what purpose? Even a person with no knowledge can immediately acquire all knowledge simply by the benediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes, that's the reason I am praying to the Lord for his causeless mercy upon me. Right? So, Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanandau Sahauditau Gaudadai Pushpavantau Chitrau Sandau Tamonudau. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and the moon. They have arisen simultaneously in the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. सबको कृपा देने वाले श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु और नित्यानंद प्रभु, जो कि सूर्य और चंद्रमा के समान है, वो आए हैं गौड़ देश में। एक साथ सूर्य और चंद्रमा दोनों उगे हैं। किस लिए उगे हैं? ताकि जो अज्ञानता का अंधकार को भेदने के लिए वो रुके हैं और सबको अपना कृपा देने के लिए आए हैं। राइट। जयताम सुरतो पंगो मम मंद मतिर्गति मत्सर्व स्वपदाम्भोजौ राधा मदन मोहनौ। So glory to all. पढ़ सकते हैं क्या? Someone can read.
Hare Krishna.
पढ़िए।
Translation. Glory to the all merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill advised, yet they are my directors and their lotus feet are everything to me.
Yeah. So here the notes is written that Madan Mohan is the Sambandha Vigraha. They are connecting us to the devotees and to the Lord. Sambandha Vigraha, they can connect us to devotees. So I am not having capacity, so that's why I am praying to Madan Mohan. दिव्यवृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमातः श्रीमद्रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद्राधाशीलगोविन्ददेवो प्रेष्ठाभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि। पढ़िए। यस, कोई पढ़ रहे हैं? पढ़िए।
Inner temple of jewels in Vrindavan,
In a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath a desire tree, Sri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadramada Srimad Ratnagar, Ratna se Agar, Simhasanasta, Simhasan के ऊपर बैठे हैं, right? So तो ये हम प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं पहले इनको, पहले राधा मदन मोहन जी को, देन राधा गोविंद देव जी को, देन we will pray to गोपीनाथ जी. श्रीमान रसरसारंभी वंशी बटतटस्थितः कर्षण वेणुस्वनिर्गोपी गोपीनाथाश्रयस्तु नः. So may Gopinath ji, who attracts all the gopis with the song of his flute and who has begun the most melodious rasa dance on the bank of Yamuna in the Vamshivata, be merciful upon us. Jaya Jaya Gaurachandra Jaya Kripa Sindhu Jaya Jaya Sachi Shuta Jaya Dina Bandhu. All glories to Gaura Hari, who is an ocean of mercy. All glories unto you, O son of Sachi Devi. You are the only friend of all the souls. Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Tveta Chandra Jaya Shri Vasadi Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Prabhu, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya headed by Srivas Thakur. So this is the prayers of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami before he begins his chapter. 7 verses का उन्होंने prelude या फिर invocation, obeisances और prayers लिखा. उसके बाद चैतन्य भागवत का भी glorification होगा from text number 8 to text number 14. Glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Vrindavan Das Thakur. So first he talks about Adi Lila Sutragana. पूर्वे कहिलो आद्रि लीला रस, पूर्वे कहिलो आद्रि लीला रस सूत्रगण यहाँ विस्तारिये छेना दस वृंदावन. So Adi Lila में we have already described fully. I have previously described in synopsis the Adi Lila. Which have already been fully described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. So just a second. So this is a specialty in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Generally, if an author is writing once something which has been already written by some previous authors, then what happens is the next author, he will wonder that okay, I will write something better than what he has written and I will not quote him. But this particular situation, we can see that the Vrindavan Das Thakur is the previous author and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the next author. But again and again in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vrindavan Das Thakur is being glorified by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami again and again. So he is saying, I have therefore Ateva Tarami Sutra Matra Kailu Yaki Chubishesha Sutra Madhe Kahilu. So I have what I have done is I've simply given only a synopsis of those incidents, and whatever specifics were to be related have already been given in that synopsis. एवे कहि शेष लीलार मुख्य सूत्र गान प्रभुर शेष लीला नया वर्णना. So Prabhu's Shesh Leela is Ashesha. Ashesha means it is unlimited. वो कभी खत्म नहीं हो सकता है, इतना सारा लीला. लेकिन this is known as Sesha. Sesha means the last, the Antya, final pastimes. So now to describe the unlimited pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not possible. But now I wish to relate the chief incidents and give a synopsis of those pastimes occurring at the end. तारमध्ये भाग दास वृंदावन चैतन्य मंगले विस्तारी करिला वर्णना. सेई भागेर इहा सूत्र मात्र लिखिबा ताहाए विशेष किछु इहा विस्तारिबा. So I shall describe only in synopsis that portion which Vrindavan Das Thakur has previously described very elaborately in his book Chaitanya Mangal. Previously that book was known as Chaitanya Mangal. Eventually that book is known as Chaitanya Bhagavat. So whatever incidents were outstanding, however, I shall elaborate later. Chaitanya Lila Vyasa Dasa Vrindavan Tara Agya Karo Tara Uchishtha Varnana. So Chaitanya Lilara Vyas Das Vrindavan. Actually, the authorized compiler of pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vrindavan Das Thakur, the incarnation of Vyasdev. Tara Agya Karo Tara Uchista Varna. Uchista Charvana. So I can only try to chew. Charvana means Chavana. Kisko Uchista, the remnants of food that he has left by his mercy, by his orders. Tar Agya. भक्ति करी सिर धरी तहार चरण शेष लीलार सूत्र गण करी वर्णन. Placing his lotus feet upon my head in great devotion, I shall now describe in summary the Lord's final pastimes. So now he goes into the description of the final pastimes. So in this text, 15 to 23, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he gives the three divisions of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So there is first understanding is Adi Lila and Sesha Lila. From the Sesha Lila there is Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. And Antya Lila is divided into three parts and two parts. First 6 years in which he is spending with devotees, and last 12 years he is more or less staying alone. More or less staying alone. So that's we can see how the pastimes are happening. Okay. 24 वर्णना 24 वस्त्र प्रभुर गृहे अवस्थाना ताहा ये करिला लीला आदि लीला नामा. For 24 years, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at home, and whatever pastimes he performed at home and whatever pastimes he performed during that time is called Adi Leela. तो 24 साल के लिए घर में रहे, संन्यास नहीं लिया तो घर में रहे, उसको बोलते हैं आदि लीला. 24 वस्त्र प्रभुर घरे अवस्थान, भगवान घर पे रहे, तहां करिया लीला आदि लीला नाम. वहां पे जो भी लीला किया उसको आदि लीला. 24 वस्त्र शेष से माघ मास तार शुक्ल पक्षे प्रभु करिला संन्यास. जब 24 years हो गया, in the month of Magh, during the fortnight of waxing moon, the Lord accepted the renounced order of life, sannyas. That is 14th of January 1510, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. So that is text number 16. संन्यास करिया 26 अवस्तर अवस्थाना तहाँ यही लीला तर शेष लीला नाम. After accepting sannyas, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained within this material world for another 24 years. And within this period, whatever pastimes he enacted is called as Sesh Leela, or pastimes occurring at the end. Okay, so this is known as Shesh Leela. Okay, then शेष लीला मध्य अंत्य दुई नाम हय लीला भेदे वैष्णव सब नाम भेद कय. The final passages of the Lord occurring in this last 24 years are called as Madhya Lila and Antya Lila. All the devotees of the Lord refer to this pastimes according to these divisions. जितने भी भगवान के भक्त हैं वो बोलते हैं शेष लीला, अंत्य लीला, मध्य लीला, अंत्य लीला. तार मध्य छय वस्तर गमना नीलाचले गौड़ सेतु बंध वृंदावन. For 6 years of last 24, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled all over India from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, from Cape Cameron to Vrindavan. Setu Bandha, Cape Cameron, right? Cape Cameron means the last portion of Indian subcontinent. Taha yei lila tar madhya lila naam tar pache lila antya lila abhidana. All the pastimes performed with the Lord in those places are known as the Madhya Lila, and whatever pastimes are performed after that is called as Antya Lila. Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, Anta Lila Ara, Ebe Madhya Lila Ara Kichu Kariya Vistara. The pastimes of Lord are three, therefore divided into three periods: Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, Antya Lila. Now I shall elaborately describe the Madhya Lila. अष्टादश वर्ष केवल नीलाचल स्थिति अपनी आचार्य जीव सिखाइला भक्ति. For 18 continuous years, Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at Jagannath Puri and through his personal behavior instructed all living entities in the mode of devotional service. 18 साल तक के वृंदावन में रहे और उन्होंने क्या किया? He kept on by his personal behavior, he instructed the modes of devotional service. तार मध्य छाया वत्सर भक्त गण संगे प्रेम भक्ति प्रवर्ताइला नृत्य गीता रंगे. So of this 18 years of Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent 6 years with his many devotees by chanting and dancing introduced the loving service of the Lord. So this is the first 6 years in which he introduced Prem Bhakti by chanting and dancing. Nityananda Gosai re Pathaila Gauda Deshe Tena Gauda Deshe Bhasaila Prema Rase. So now further ahead, so preaching of Lord Chaitanya's associate, that is Rupa Goswami, Nityananda Prabhu, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami. So this is being told here. So next text 24 to 26, we will see what Nityananda Prabhu did. Nityananda Gosai Pathela Gauda Deshe Teha Gauda Deshe Bhasaila Prema Base. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Nityananda Prabhu from Jagannath Puri to Bengal. है ना, जगन्नाथ पुरी में बैठे थे, उनको बैठा के बोला जाओ बंगाल जाओ, which was known as गौड़ देश, इसलिए हमें कहा जाता है गौड़ीय वैष्णव. And Lord Nityanand Prabhu overflooded this country with the transcendental loving service of the Lord. पूरा का पूरा गौड़ देश was delivered by Lord Nityananda. सहजै नित्यानंद कृष्ण प्रेमोदाम प्रभु आज्ञा कैले यहाँ तहाँ प्रेम नाम तहाँ प्रेम धाम. So Lord Nityananda, he is naturally being inspired and rendering loving devotional service to Krishna, and now there is order also. Prabhura Agyain Kaila Yaha Taha Premadhan. So Sahajai Nityananda Krishna Premodhana. So by nature also Nityananda Prabhu was in the mood to simply deliver And further, when there was being order given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he was giving loving service anywhere and everywhere. It's like, if you tell some person who is wanting to, beat people, उसको मारने को बहुत पसंद आता है, वो उंगली खुली होती रहता है, तो उसको आर्मी में डाल के ऐसी जगह लेके जाओ जहाँ पे कि there are all kind of third class terrorists and they are put inside the jail, and you tell them that you keep जो करना है करो. So already his desire is to what? Is to simply beat, and then furthermore he's getting instruction also. उसको मारने का पैसा दिया जा रहा है, तो फिर तो और चांदी. So here, like that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Lord Nityananda that, oh, this is my order to you. Go and preach. By default, he wanted to anyways preach. And in addition to that, he was given order. So, like that. तहार चरण मोरा कोटि नमस्कार, चैतन्य भक्ति ये हो लैला संसार. So I offer unnumerable obeisances unto the Lord Spirit of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who is so kind that he spread the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. Chaitanya Gosaiyar bale bada bhai, teho kahe mora Prabhu Chaitanya Gosai. So now we will see the servant mode of Nityananda Prabhu. All the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to address Nityananda Prabhu as Bada Bhaiya, elder brother, Bada Bhai. Nityananda Prabhu addressed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his Lord. Your Mora Prabhu. Tara kahe Mora Prabhu Chaitanya Gosai. Yadyapi apana haya Prabhu Balaram, tathapi Chaitanya kare das abhimana. Although Nityananda Prabhu is none other than Balaram himself, right? But he nonetheless always thinks of himself as an eternal servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is known as Duye Lagiye Huda Hudi. Both the Lord and his servants, both are having a competition which is very transcendental. That what is the competition? That who can become a better servant? This is the competition. The competition between Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda is who can become a better servant. So Nityananda Prabhu is going down in front of Lord Chaitanya, I want to become your servant. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, oh, you are my bada bhai. Chaitanya seva, Chaitanya gao, lao Chaitanya naam, Chaitanya bhakti kare, say more pran. So Nityananda Prabhu is going to everyone and requesting Chaitanya seva, serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya gao, chant his glories. Lao Chaitanya naam, utter his name. Nityananda Prabhu claimed that person to be his life and soul. Chaitanya re bhakti kare, say more pran. One who is rendering devotional service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhaj Gauranga, Laho Gauranga, Laho Gaurangir Naam Re, Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje, Se Hoy Amar Pran Re. So we can say this is the prarthana of Nityananda Prabhu. Ki please chant the names of Lord Gauranga. And one who is actually chanting continuously the names of Lord Gauranga, he is my life and soul. जो बोलेगा मैं उसका दास हूँ. ए मात लोके चैतन्य भक्ति लोया इला, दीनहीन निंदक सभारे निस्तारिला. In this way, Nityananda Prabhu introduced the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without discrimination to everyone, even to Dinahina who are fallen, and Nindaka who are blasphemers, and he actually delivered everyone, all of these people were delivered by this process of worshipping Lord Chaitanya. Now we will see the achievements of Sanatan and Jiva Goswami. तावे प्रभु बजे पठाइला रूप सनातन प्रभे आज्ञा दुई भाई आइला वृंदावन. So Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then sent the two brothers, Shri Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami to Brajadham, and by his order they went to Shri Vrindavan Dham. So this is how Lord Chaitanya is preaching. He sent Nityanand Prabhu to Bengal. He himself went to South India and he remained there in Jagannath Puri to experience bliss. And then he found very nice high class people whom he can trust. He sent them to Vrindavan. So Bhakti Pracharya Sarva Tirtha Prakashila Madana Gopala Govindar Seva Pracharila. So after going to Vrindavan, the brothers preached devotional service, discovered many places of pilgrimage, and specially initiated the service of Madan Mohanji and Govinda Devji. So this is some of the instructions which were given by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa and Sanatana. Nana Sastra Ani Kaila Bhakti Grantha Sar Mudhadama Janerate Ho Karila Nistar. Further instructions which were given is to read, not read only, to read and assimilate Bhakti Grantha Sar. Find out what is conducive to pure devotional service and write that in different literatures. So Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipuno Sad Dharma Sanstapakau. So they did the Sanstapana of the pure Dharma by reading lots of Shastra and concluding that the process of Bhakti is the highest. So what all this did they do? First is Bhakti Pracharya Sarvatitha Prakashila. So they preach devotional service, number one. Number two, they discovered many places of pilgrimage. Number three, they initiated the service of Madan Mohan and Govind Devji. Number four, they brought various scriptures to Vrindavan and collected the essence of this by compiling many scriptures on devotional service. Number five, they delivered all rascals and fallen souls like me. So, purport. So, this is the first time where Prabhupada is writing a purport to the Madhya Lila. Srinivas Acharya's son, Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipunau Sadharma Samstapakau Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo. Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mattalikau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalakau. So now, what is their contribution? The 6 Goswamis under the direction of Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami studied various scriptures and picked up the essence of them, the devotional service of the Lord. This means that all the Goswamis wrote many scriptures on devotional service with the support of the Vedic literature. So Shastra पढ़ के उसमें से जो भक्ति उन्मुख ज्ञान है उसको हमें दिया गया, by the Goswamis. The devotional service is not a sentimental activity. The essence of Vedic knowledge is known as devotional service, confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Vedesha sarve rahameva vedya vedanta krit vedvedeva chaham. All the Vedic literatures aim at understanding Krishna, and how to understand Krishna through devotional service has been explained by Srila Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis with evidence from the Vedic scriptures. They have put it so nicely that even a rascal or a first-class fool can be delivered by devotional service under the guidance of the Goswamis. तो कितना सुंदर तरीके से उन्होंने लिख दिया कि Even if someone is a real fool or a rascal, he can also be completely delivered by the process of devotional service. प्रभु आज्ञा कैला सब शास्त्रेर विचार व्रजेर निगूढ़ भक्ति कैला करिला प्रचार. The Goswamis carried out the preaching work of devotional service on the basis of an analytical study of on confidential literatures. Right? So, Prabhu Agya Kaila, the first thing, doing it under the instructions of Guru, there is greater blessing, power, and empowerment. And Superior says, this you should do. So, Prabhu Agya Kaila, that means they were empowered. And our mind is so much of conditions, so many lifetimes. Bhakti is simple and straightforward. In the name of Bhakti, one gets deviated from Bhakti. Example, one person was stealing from the temple, he was caught by an employee, lakhs of rupees. How did you do this? He told financial burden, so instead of serving outside, I stole from temple. So mind convinced that this is needed for me to continue Bhakti. Bhakti is straightforward part, but there is unlimited deviations, and thus we need to hear again and again from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Thus the Goswamis showed how to practice Vraja Bhakti without deviation. So two extremes is Mayavadis and Sahajiyas. So Mayavadis have wrong in attitude and Sahajiyas have wrong intensity of sadhana bhakti. So that's the reason we need Shastra that is conclusive on the basis of the Shastras. What is the most important, most clear, thing that was given to us by the Goswamis. So, is there anyone who can read? Can you unmute yourself and read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Translation. The Goswamis carried out the preaching work of devotional service on the basis of an analytical study of all confidential Vedic scriptures. This was in compliance with the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, one can understand the most confidential devotional service of Vrindavan.
Read the purport.
Purport. This proves that bona fide devotional service is based on the conclusions of Vedic literature. It is not based on the type of sentiment exhibited by Prakrit Sahajiyas. The Prakrit Sahajiyas do not consult the Vedic literature, and they are debauchees, woman hunters, and smokers of ganja. Sometimes they give a theatrical performance and cry for the Lord with tears in their eyes. Of course, all scriptural conclusions are washed off by these tears. The Prakrit Sahajiyas do not realize that they are violating the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who specifically said that to understand Vrindavan and the pastimes of Vrindavan, one must have sufficient knowledge of the Shastras, Vedic scriptures. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhaktya Shruta Grihatyaya. This means that devotional service is acquired from Vedic knowledge. Tat Shraddhana Munaya. Devotees who are actually serious attain bhakti, scientific devotional service, by hearing Vedic scriptures. Bhaktya Shruta Grihitya. It is not that one should create something out of sentimentality, become a sahajiya, and advocate such concocted devotional service. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur considered such sahajiyas to be more favorable than the impersonalists who are hopelessly atheistic. The impersonalists have no idea of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The position of Sahajiyas is far better than that of Mayavadi sannyasis. Although the Sahajiyas do not think much of the Vedic knowledge, they nonetheless have accepted Lord Krishna as Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, they mislead others from authentic devotional service.
So this is the Sahajiyas are more favorable than in-person list who are hopelessly atheistic, Prabhupada says. But still, this is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's understanding. At the same time, we need not go to either of the zones, neither Sahajiyas nor Mayavadis. These are two different extremes. Hari Bhakti Vilasa Ar Bhagavatamrita Dasa Tippani Ara Dashama Charita. These are all the various names of the books compiled by Sanatana Goswami. Some of the books compiled by Sri Sanatana Goswami were Hari Bhakti Vilas, Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Dashama Tippani, and Dashama Charita. So Prabhupada writes an elaborate understanding of the details of these books, which we will just quickly read, so that whatever we want to understand we can understand, but we will read. In the first page of the book known as Bhakti Ratnakar, it is said that Sanatan Goswami understood Srimad Bhagavatam by thorough study and explained it in his commentary known as Vaishnava Toshni. All the knowledge that Sri Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami directly acquired from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was broadcast all over the world by their expert service. Sanatan Goswami gave his Vaishnava Toshni commentary to Srila Jiva Goswami for editing, and Srila Jiva Goswami edited this under the name Laghu Toshni. Laghu matlab chota, Vaishnava Toshni bada. Whatever he immediately put down in writing was finished in the year 1476, that is 1555 AD. Srila Jiva Goswami completed Laghu Toshni in the year 1583 AD. The subject matter of the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sri Sanatan Goswami was collected by Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami, is known as Vaishnava Smriti. This Vaishnava Smriti Grantha was finished in 20 chapters known as Vilasas. The first Vilasa, there is a description of how is the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, and the mantras are explained. The second Vilasa, the process of initiation is described. The third Vilasa, the methods of Vaishnava behavior are given. So many of this you will find is taken and put in the ISKCON disciple course also. Right? So the third Vilas is having the emphasis of cleanliness, constant remembrance of Supreme State of Godhead, and chanting of the mantras is given by initiating spiritual master. In the fourth Vilas, that the description of sanskaras or reformatory methods, the tilak, the application of 12 tilaks on the 12 parts of the body, the mudras, and the marks on the body, mala, chanting with beads, and guru puja, worship of the spiritual master. The fifth Vilas, one is instructed how to make a place to sit for meditation, and there are descriptions of breathing exercises, meditation, worship on the Saligram Shila, a representation of the Lord Vishnu. In the sixth Vilas, the required practices for inviting the transcendental form of the Lord and bathing him are given. In the seventh Vilas, one is instructed on how to collect flowers used for worship of Lord Vishnu. मतलब एक पूरा विलास है कैसे भगवान के लिए पुष्प इकट्ठा करें for serving Lord Vishnu. In the eighth Vilas, there is a description of the deity and instructions on how to set up incense, light lamps, make offerings, dance, play music, beat drums, garland the deity, offer prayers and obeisances to counteract obeisances. In the ninth Vilas, there are descriptions about collecting tulasi leaves, offering oblations to forefathers along with Vaishnava rituals, and offering food. In the 10th Vilas, there are descriptions of the devotees of the Lord, that is Vaishnava or saintly persons. In the 11th Vilas, there is elaborate descriptions of deity worship and glories of the holy name of the Lord. One is instructed on how to chant the holy name of the deity, and there are discussions about offenses committed while chanting the holy name, along with methods for getting relief from such offenses. There are also descriptions of the glories of devotional service and the surrendering process. In the 12th Vilas, Ekadashi is described. In the 13th Vilas, fasting is discussed as well as observing of Mahadvadashi ceremony. In the 14th Vilas, different duties of different months are outlined. In the 15th Vilas, there are instructions on how to observe Ekadashi fasting without even drinking water, that is neutral. There are also description of branding the body with the symbols of Vishnu, discussions of Chaturmasya observations during the rainy season, and discussions on Janmashtami, Parshva Ekadashi, Shravana Dwadashi, Ramanavami, Vijayadashami. The 16th Vilas discusses duties to be observed in the month of Kartik, that is October, November, on Damodar Urja, when the lamps are offered in the deity room or above the temple. The only reason why we celebrate Damodar Ashtakam is because it is there in Haribhakti Vilas. बाकी बहुत सारी चीजें हुई थी, लेकिन why do we take that particular thing from Padma Purana? Because it is given in this, 16th Vilas, right? So there are also descriptions of the Govardhan Puja and Rath Yatra. The 17th Vilas discusses preparation of deity worship, Mahamantra chanting, and the process of Jap. In the 18th Vilas, there are different forms of Sri Vishnu are described. The 19th Vilas discusses the establishment of deity and the rituals observed. 19th Vilas discusses the establishment of deity and the rituals observed in bathing the deity before installation. Right. The 20th Vilas discusses the construction of temples, referring to those constructed by great devotees. The details of the Hari Bhakti Vilas Grantha are given by Sri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami in the Madhya Lila, 24th chapter, 329 to 345th verse, which is actually Sanatan Siksha. The descriptions given in those verses by Krishnadas Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, are actually a description of those portions compiled by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the regulative principles of devotional service compiled by Gopal Bhatta Goswami do not strictly follow our Vaishnava principles. Actually, Gopal Bhatta Goswami collected only a summary of the elaborate descriptions of the Vaishnava regulative principles from Hari Bhakti Vilas. It is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami's opinion, however, that to follow the Hari Bhakti Vilas strictly is to actually follow the Vaishnava rituals in perfect order. He claims that Smarta Samaj strictly follows by the caste Brahmanas and inspires the portions that Gopal Bhatta Goswami collected from the original Hari Bhakti Vilas. It is therefore very difficult to find out the very Vaishnava directions from the book of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. It is better to consult the commentary made by Sanatan Goswami himself for the Hari Bhakti Vilas under the name Digdarshini Tika. Some say that the same commentary was compiled by Gopinath Puja Adhikari, who was engaged in the service of Shri Radharamanji and who happened to be one of the disciples of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So basically, there are two understandings. One is Hari Bhakti Vilas was written by Sanatan Goswami, and he himself gave a Tippani, Tika, which is known as Digdarshini Tika. And then the Digdarshana Tika is also having the Tika to the Damodar Ashtakam by Sanatan Goswami, which we had discussed during the Damodar month once. Then there is another details of Gopal Bhatta Goswami's Hari Bhakti Vilas, which according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually has got influenced by the caste Brahmanas, like that. And some say that the same commentary of Sanatan Goswami was compiled by one disciple of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who was the main servant of Shri Radharamanji Mandir. But anyways, regarding the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is one more very elaborate book by Sanatan Goswami, there are two parts dealing with the discharge of devotional service. The first part is an analytical study of devotional service, in which there is also description of different planets, including the Earth, the heavenly planets, the Brahma Loka, the Vaikuntha Loka. There is also description of the devotees, including the most intimate devotees, including the intimate devotees, most important intimate devotees, and complete devotees. So slowly it goes ahead and ahead. The second part describes the glories of spiritual world known as Golok, Mahatma and Nirupana, as well as the process of renunciation of the material world. It also describes the real knowledge, devotional service, and the spiritual world, love of Godhead, attainment of life's destination, and the bliss of the world. In this way, there are 7 chapters in each part, 14 chapters in all. Dashama Tipmani is the commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Another name of this commentary is Brihad Vaishnava Toshin Tika. In the Bhakti Ratnakar, it is said that Dashama Tipmani was finished in 1550 AD, 1555, 1554. Okay. ए सब ग्रंथ कैला गोसाई सनातन रूप गोसाई कैला यत्र की करुनु गणन. So we have already given the names of 4 books compiled by Sanatana Goswami. Now similarly Rupa Goswami also compiled many books which no one can even count. Ki karebe ganana pradhana pradhana ki chukariye ganana lakshya granthe kaila vraja vilase varnana. I shall therefore enumerate the chief books compiled by Rupa Goswami. He has described the pastimes of Vrindavan, thousands of verses. Actually, there are so many books of Rupa Goswami which has been put inside the Samadhi, Grantha Samadhi, which is there near the Sanatana Goswami's Samadhi by Jiva Goswami, because he has written so many books, but the Kali Yuga people don't have the capacity to understand also. So these are name of some of the books. Rasamrita Sindhu Ara Vidagda Madhava, Ujjvala Nilamani Ara Lalita Madhava, Tanake Lika Mudini Ara Bahushatavadi, Ashtadesha Lila Chanda Ara Padyavali, Govinda Virodhavali Tara Lakshan, Tahara Lakshana, Mathura Mahatmaya Nataka Varnana. These are all the various names of the books of Sri Rupa Goswami. Laghu Bhagavatamrita Adi Kakarino Ganana Kekaru Ganana Sarvatra Kaila Vraja Vilasa Varnana. कौन काउंट करेगा? इतने सारे बुक्स लिख दिया उन्होंने, सब व्रज विलास पे वर्णन किया जा रहा है. So these are the Goswamis, very powerful. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a description of these books in his purport. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now we read the details of what was there in Sanatana Goswami's book. Now we will read the descriptions of what is there in various books of Srila Rupa Goswami. Very elaborate details. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a description of these books. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a great book of instruction on how to develop devotional service to Lord Krishna and follow the transcendental process. It was finished in the year 1542 AD. This book is divided into 4 parts: Purva Vibhag, Dakshin Vibhag, Paschim Vibhag, Uttar Vibhag. In the Purva Vibhag, there is description of permanent development of devotional service, the general principles of devotional service, the execution of devotional service, the bhava, and ultimately prema. In this way, there are 4 laharis, that means waves. Because it is Sindhu, it is having, divisions, eastern division, western division, because if you have an ocean, it will be having divisions, and each division will be having waves. So first wave, second wave, third wave, each is having laharis, that is waves. In Dakshin Vibhag, the southern division, there are general description of the flow or relationship we call Bhakti Rasa, which is derived from devotional service. There are also descriptions of the stages known as Vibhav, Anubhav, Satvika, Vyabhichari, and Sthai Bhav, all on this high platform of devotional service. Thus, there are 5 waves in Dakshina Vibhag division. In the western division, Paschim Vibhag, there is a description of the chief transcendental humors. Humors means mellows, derived from devotional service. It is known as Mukhya Bhakti Rasa Nirupana, or attainment of chief humors or feelings of institutional devotional service. In that part, there is a description of devotional service in neutrality. That means Shant Rasa. Further development of love and affection called servitude, Das Rasa. Further development of fraternity, that means in fraternity, that means Sakhya Rasa. Further developing parenthood or parental love, that is Vatsalya Rasa. And finally, conjugal love between Krishna and his devotees, that is Madhurya Rasa. Thus, there are 5 waves in the Western division. In the Northern division, Uttar Vibhag, there is description of the indirect mellows of devotional service, namely devotional service and laughter, devotional service and wonder, devotional service and chivalry, pity, anger, dread, hostilities. These are also known as secondary rasas. This primary rasa, secondary rasa. Okay. Thus, there is also mixing of values and transgression of different humors. This is but a brief outline of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now, the next book, Vidagdha Madhava, is a drama of Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. Srila Rupa Goswami finished this book in the year 1533. The first part of this drama is called as Venunad Vilas. Second part, Manamatha Lekha. Third part, Radha Sangha. Fourth part, Venu Harana. Fifth part, Radha Prasadana. Sixth part, Sharad Vihar. And seventh and the last part, Gauri Vihar. There is also a book known as Ujjwala Nilamani, a transcendental account of loving affairs, which that includes metaphor, analogy, and higher bhakti sentiments. The devotional service and conjugal love is described briefly in Bhakti Rasamrita, but very elaborately described in Ujjwala Nilamani. This book describes different types of lovers, their assistants, who are very dear to Krishna. There is a description of Srimati Radharani and female lovers, as well as various group leaders, messengers, and constant associates, as well as others who are very dear to Krishna, are all described. The book also relates how to love Krishna is awakened and describes the ecstatic situation and devotional situation, permanent ecstasy, disturbed ecstasies, 3D ecstasy, different positions, different wishes, different feelings of separation, prior attraction, anger interaction, Manalila, varieties of loving affairs, separation from the beloved, that is Viraha Bhava, meeting with the beloveds, that is Sambhoga, and both direct and indirect enjoyment with love and beloved. All this have been very elaborately described. Similarly, Lilith Madhav is a description of Krishna's pastimes in Dwaraka. So this was instructed by Satyabhama to Rupa Goswami. Satyabhama came in the dream of Rupa Goswami and told her, you have described the Vidagdha Madhava. It is such a book. Now please, that is for Vrindavan. So please write a book on Dwarka. Then he wrote one more book on Dwarka. These pastimes are made into drama, and the work was finished in the year 1459 Sakabda. That means about 1535 or something. 1530. 38. The first part deals with the festivities in the evening. Second part, in the killing of Shankachuda. Third part with maddened Srimati Radharani. The fourth part with Radharani proceeding towards Krishna. Fifth with the achievement of Chandravali. Sixth with the achievement of Lilita. Seventh with meeting Navavrindavana. Eighth with the enjoyment in Navavrindavana. That means in Dwarka. The ninth with looking over pictures. And 10th, complete satisfaction of the mind. Thus, the entire drama is divided into 10 parts. The Laghu Bhagavatamrita is divided in 2 parts. The first is called as the Nectar of Krishna. Second part, the Nectar of Devotional Service. The importance of Vedic evidence is stressed in the first part, and this is followed by the description of the original forms of people embodied as Sri Krishna and the descriptions of his pastimes and expansion in Swamsha and Vivennamsha. According to different absorptions, the incarnations are called Avesha and Tad Ekatma. तो 2 प्रकार के incarnations है, एक है आवेश और एक है तद एकात्मा. The first incarnation divided into 3 Purusha avatars, namely Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Shivadakshaya Vishnu. Then there are 3 different incarnations of the modes of nature, namely Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, that is Lord Shiva. All the paraphernalia used in the service of the Lord is transcendental, beyond the 3 qualities of this material world. There is also a description of 25 Leela avatars named as Chatur Shana, that means the Kumaras. There are various Leela avatars, you will read that. Narada, Varaha, Matsya, Yajna, Naranarayan Rishi, Kapila, Tattatreya, Hayagriva, Hamsa, Prishnigarva, Rishabha, Prithu, Narsimha, Kurma, Dhanvantari, Mohini, Vamana, Parshurama, Dasharathi, Krishna Dvaipyana, Balarama, Dasarathi, Dashrathi, that means Lord Ram. Dasarathi Putra. Dashrath Putra, that means Dashrathi. Balarama, Vasudeva, Buddha, Kalki. There are also 14 incarnations of Manu. Yajna, Vibhu, Satyasena, Hari, Vaikuntha, Ajita, Vamana, Sarva, Bhauma, Rishabha, Vivakshena, Vishvakshena, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwara, and Brihad Banu. There are also 4 incarnations for the 4 yugas, and their colors were described as white, red, blackish, and black. Sometimes yellow, as in the case of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are different types of millenniums and incarnation for those millenniums. The category called as Avesha, Prabhava, Vaibhava, and Para constitute different situations for different incarnations. According to specific pastimes, the names are spiritually empowered. There are also descriptions of the difference between the powerful and the power and the inconceivable activities of the Supreme Lord. Shri Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead and no one is greater than him. He is the source of all incarnations. In the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, there are descriptions of his partial incarnation, a description of his impersonal. अभी लघु भागवतामृत के बारे में देखेंगे तो ये सब रूप गोस्वामी इतना लिखा है उसको पढ़ के हमारा हालत खराब हो रहा है what to speak of actually going in the details of reading it, and many of us don't have eligibility to also enter into that, right? So Laghu Bhagavatamrita, there are descriptions of his partial incarnation, description of impersonal Brahman, effulgence according to bodily effulgence of Sri Krishna, super excellence of Sri Krishna's pastimes as an extraordinary human, ordinary human being with 2 hands and so forth. There is nothing to compare with 2-armed form of the Lord. In the spiritual world, Vaikuntha Jagat, there is no distinction between the owner of the body and the body itself. In the material world, the owner of the body is called the soul, and the body itself is Jada, material manifestation. In the Vaikuntha world, however, there is no such distinction. Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna is unborn and his appearance as an incarnation is perpetual. Krishna's pastimes are divided in 2 parts, manifest and unmanifest. For example, when Krishna takes his birth within the material world, his pastimes are considered to be manifest. However, when he disappears, one should not think that he is finished, for his pastimes are going on in an unmanifest form. Prakati Lila and Aprakati Lila, that way. Varieties of humors, however, are enjoyed by the devotees and Lord Krishna during his manifest pastimes. After all, his pastimes in Mathura, Vrindavan, and Dwarka are eternal and are going on perpetually somewhere in some part of the universe. So, this is the detailed analysis of all the books written by Rupa Goswami by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And it is not over yet. There are lots of more books which he is going to write, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is going to explain elaborately further also. Tara Bhratrus Putra Nama Shri Jiva Gosai Yat Bhakti Grantha Kaila Tara Antanai. Shri Rupa Goswami's nephew, Shri Jiva Goswami, has compiled so many books on devotional service that there is no counting them. And till date, in our Banaras, what is the name? Banaras Hindu University, BHU, we have got a whole department on Jiva Goswami studies, the books written by Jiva Goswami. So let us see what all books has he written. Shri Bhakta Sandarbha Nama Grantha Vistar Bhakti Siddhanta Rera Tate Dekha Par. So as soon as this Bhakti Sandarbha comes, there are Shad Sandarbhas, but Bhakti Sandarbha is also known as Shat Sandarbha. There are 6 books, Shat. So the first part is called as Tattva Sandarbha. And it is proved that Srimad Bhagavatam is the most authoritative evidence and directly pointing to the absolute truth. The second Sandarbha called the Bhagavat Sandarbha. Bhagavat Sandarbha draws a distinction between impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma and describes the spiritual world and the nomination of the mode of goodness devoid from the contamination by the other 2 material modes. In other words, there is a vivid description of the transcendental position known as Shuddha Sattva. Material goodness is apt to be contaminated by the 2 other material qualities, that is ignorance and passion. But when one is situated in Shuddha Sattva position, there is no chance for such contamination. It is a spiritual platform of pure goodness. The potency of Supreme Lord and the partial entity is also described. and there is a description of the inconceivable energies and varieties of energies of the Lord. भगवान के energies का description है. The potencies are divided into categories: internal and external, personal and marginal, and so forth. There are also discussions on the eternality of the deity worship, the omnipotence of the deity, and all pervasiveness, his giving shelter to everyone, his subtle and gross potencies, his personal manifestations, his expression of form, quality, pastimes, his transcendental position, and his complete form. It is also stated that everything pertaining to the absolute has the same potency, and that the spiritual world, the associates of the spiritual world, and the threefold energies of the Lord in the spiritual world are all transcendental. There are further discussions concerning the difference between impersonal Brahman and the personal Godhead, the fullness of the personal of Godhead, the objective of the Vedic knowledge, the personal potency of the Lord, the personality of the Godhead as the original author of the Vedic knowledge. तो बहुत सारे डिस्कशंस उसमें दी हुई है. किसमें? भगवत संदर्भ में. भगवत संदर्भ सेकंड संदर्भ है. ऐसे 6 संदर्भ लिखे हुए हैं. सो भागवत संदर्भ में बताया गया है कैसे डीटी वर्शिप इंपॉर्टेंट है. बहुत सारी चीजें टच की गई हैं. शुद्ध सत्व क्या है, एंड हाउ द लॉर्ड इज ओमनीपोटेंट, हाउ ही इज ऑल परवेसिव, अखिलात्मा, हाउ इज personally manifested, and how he gives the details of the presence of the this is which second, yeah. So then he says about impersonal Brahman and personality of Godhead, what is the better, so like that. So these are the content. तो ये आप नहीं भी समझ रहे हैं कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, सुनते रहिए बस. The third sandarbha is called Paramatma Sandarbha. In this book there is a description of Paramatma, that is super soul, and an explanation of how the super soul in millions and millions of living entity exists. There are discussions of differences between qualitative and qualitative incarnations and discourses concerning the living entities, Maya, the material world, and the theory of transformation, the illusionary energy, the sameness of this world and the super soul, and the truth about the material world. In this connection, the opinions of Sridhar Swami are given. तो श्रीधर स्वामी का opinions लेकर के जीव गोस्वामी has established certain concepts of these things, the material world, theory of transformation, illusionary energy, etc. It is stated that the Supreme Supreme Godhead, although devoid of material qualities and superintends all material activities. There is also discussion of how the Lila Avatar incarnations respond to the desires of the devotees, and how the Supreme Personal Godhead is characterized with 6 opulences. 6 opulences का details दिया गया है कौन से संदर्भ में? That is the third sandarbha, which is known as Paramatma Sandarbha. And the fourth sandarbha is known as Krishna Sandarbha. And this book, Krishna is proved with the Supreme Person of Godhead. There are discussions of Krishna's pastimes and qualities, his superintendence of the Purusha avatars, and so forth. The opinions of Sridhar Swami are corroborated. In each and every scripture, the supremacy of Krishna is stressed. Baldev, Sankarshan, and other expansions of Krishna are emanations of Mahasankarshana. All the incarnations and expansions exist simultaneously in the body of Krishna, who is described as two-handed. There are also descriptions of the Golok planet, Vrindavan, the eternal place of Krishna, the identity of Golok and Vrindavan, the Yadavas and the cowherd boys, and the adjustment of the equality of the manifest and the unmanifest pastime. Shri Krishna manifestation in Gokul, the queens of Dwarka as expansions of internal potency, and superior to them, the super excellent gopis. There are also lists of gopis named and the discussion of the topmost position of Srimati Radharani. This is in the Sandarbha known as Krishna Sandarbha. Then the fifth Sandarbha is known as Bhakti Sandarbha. In this book, there is a discussion of how devotional service can be directly executed and how such service can be adjusted either directly or indirectly. There is discussion of the knowledge of all kinds of scriptures, the establishment of the Vedic institutions of the Varnashrama, bhakti as superior to fruitive activity, and so forth. It is also stated that without devotional service, even a brahmana is condemned. There are discussions of the process of karma tyaga, that is giving of the results of karma to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the practices of mystic yoga and philosophical speculation, which are depreciated as simply hard labor. So, karma tyaga, karma yoga, etc. So, worship of demigods is discouraged. Worship of Vaishnava is considered exalted. No respect is given to the non-devotees. There are discussions on how one can be liberated even in the life that is Jivan Mukta. Lord Shiva is a devotee, and how a bhakta and his devotional service are eternally existing. It is stated that though through bhakti one can attain all success because bhakti is a transcendental to the material qualities. There is a discussion on how the self is manifested through bhakti. There is also a discussion on the self's bliss, as well as how bhakti, even imperfectly executed, enables one to attain the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unmotivated devotional service is highly praised, and explanation is given on how each devotee can achieve the platform of unmotivated service by association with other devotees. There is a discussion of the differences between the Mahabhagavat and the ordinary devotee, the symptoms of philosophical speculation, the symptoms of self worship, or ahangropasana, the symptoms of devotional service, the symptoms of imaginative perfection, the same acceptance of regulated principles, the service to spiritual master, the Mahabhagavata liberated devotees, and service to him, the service to Vaishnavas in general, the principles of hearing, chanting, remembering, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Right? Offenses in worship, offensive effects, prayers, engaging oneself in eternal servant of the Lord, making friendships with the Lord, and surrendering everything for his pleasure. There is also discussion of Raganuga Bhakti, spontaneous love of Godhead, of the specific purpose of becoming a devotee of Lord Krishna, and a comparative study of other perfectional stages. The sixth Sandarbha is called as Preeti Sandarbha, a thesis on the love of Godhead. Here it is stated that through love of God, one becomes perfectly liberated and attains the highest goal of life. A distinction is made between the liberated condition of the personalist and that of an impersonalist, and there is a discussion of liberation during one's lifetime as distinguished from the liberation of material bondage. All kinds of liberation of all kinds of liberation and loving service of the Lord is described as the most exalted. The meeting of the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face is shown as the highest perfection of life. Immediate liberation is contrasted with the liberation by gradual process. Both realizations of Brahman and meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead are described as liberation within one's lifetime, but meeting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both internally and externally, is shown to be super excellent, above the transcendental realization of Brahman effulgence. There is also a comparative study of liberation as Salokya, Samepya, Sarupya, Samepya. Okay, 3. Samipya is better than Salokya. Devotional service is considered to be liberation with greater facilities, and there is a discussion on how to obtain it. There are also discussions of the transcendental state one achieves after attaining the devotional platform, which is the exact position of love of Godhead. The marginal symptoms of the transcendental love and how it can be awakened, the distinction between so-called love and transcendental love on the platform of the love of Godhead, and the different types of humors and mellows enjoyed in relation to the lusty affairs of the gopis, which are different from mundane affairs, which in turn are symbolical representation of pure love of Krishna. There are also discussions of bhakti mixed with philosophical speculation, the super excellence of the love of gopis, the difference between opulent pure devotion service and loving pure devotion service. That means prema and prema bhakti and what is that called? Aishwarya and prema. Opulent devotional service happens in Dwarka. Loving devotional service happens in Vrachan. The exalted position of the residents of Gokul, the progressive exalted position of the friends of Krishna, the Gopas and the Gopis in fraternal love with Krishna, and finally the super excellence in the love of the Gopis and that of Srimati Radhika. There is also discussion of how spiritual feelings can be present when one simply imitates them, and how much mellows are far superior to the ordinary mellows of mundane love. And there is also description of different ecstasies. The awakening of ecstasy, transcendental qualities, the distinction of Dhirodatta, Dhirodat, the utmost attractiveness of conjugal love, the ecstatic features, the permanent ecstatic features, the mellows divided into the fine transcendental features of loving service and indirect loving service, considered the 7 divisions. Finally, there is discussion of overlapping of different rasas. And there are discussions that of Shanta, servitorship, taking shelter, paternal love, conjugal love, direct transcendental enjoyment, enjoyment separation, previous attraction, and the glories of Srimati Radharani. So this is the details of the Shad Sandarbhas, जिसको कि हम पढ़ेंगे तो हमारा सर घूमने लगेगा, अभी से घूम रहा है फुल स्पीड में. Now he wrote more. गोपाल चंपू नामे ग्रंथ महासुर, नु गोपाल चंपू नामे ग्रंथ महासुर, नित्य लीला स्थापना याहे ब्रज रसपुर. The most famous and formidable transcendental literary work is the book named Gopala Champu. So in this book, the eternal pastimes of the Lord are described, and the transcendental mellows enjoyed in Vrindavan are completely described. Gopal Champu. So this is Gopal Champu is having lots of details of the Vrajlila of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna's Vrajlila is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, first 40 chapters of the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. But in addition to that, there is also details given in the Hari Vamsha, which is a portion of the Mahabharata. There is Gopal Champu, and there is also some more books which are given to us. In an Anubhashya commentary, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following information about the Gopal Champu. Now, what is Gopal Champu? The Gopal Champu is divided into 2 parts. Actually, Champu means a particular way of writing. You know, like we have chandas, like that, Champu. So the Gopal Champu is divided into 2 parts. The first part is called Eastern Wave, second part is called Northern Wave. The first part there is 33 supplications, and the second part there is 37 supplications. First part completed in 1589. Following subject matters are discussed: Vrindavan and Golok, killing of Putana, demon, the gopis returning home under the instructions of Mother Yashoda, the bathing of Lord Krishna and Balram, Snigdakanta, Madhukanta, the dream of Mother Yashoda, Janmashtami ceremony, mating of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev, the killing of Putana demon, the pastimes of awakening of the bed and deliverance of demon Shakata, and the name-giving ceremony. So this is our 10th kind of pastime. The killing of Trinavata, the demon, the Lord Krishna is eating dirt, Lord Krishna, childish naughtiness, and Lord Krishna is a thief of butter. Churning of the yogurt, Krishna's drinking from the breast of Mother Yashoda, breaking of Mother Yoga's yogurt pot, Krishna bound with ropes and deliverance of the 2 brothers Himalayajana, and lamentation of Mother Yashoda, entering Sri Vrindavan, killing of Vatsasura, Bakasura, and Vyamasura, killing of Aghasura, and bewilderment of Lord Brahma Vimohan Leela. The tending of the cows in the forest, taking care of the cows, the chastising of Kaliya serpent, the killing of Garbhadasura. Gardhabasura, that means, who is that Gardhabasura? As demon. As is also known as Gardhab. Gardhav is also known as. What is his name? Gardhav. So, okay. क्या नाम है? Gardhavasura. Okay, anyways, we'll remember slowly. Okay, the praise of Krishna, the previous attraction of the gopis, that means the beginning of it. The killing of Pralambasura, the eating of forest fire, the gopis' attempt to approach Krishna, the lifting of Vardhan hill, the bathing of Krishna with milk, the return of Nanda Maharaj from the custody of Varuna, and the vision of Golak Vrindavan by the gopis, the performance of rituals by Kartini and the worship of the goddess Durga, the begging of food from the wives of Brahmanas performing sacrifices, the meeting of Krishna and the gopis, Krishna's enjoying the company of the gopis, disappearance of Radha and Krishna from the scene, the search for them by the gopis. This is the Ras Leela dance, the reappearance of Krishna, the determinateness of the gopis, the pastimes in the waters of Yamuna, the deliverance of Nanda Maharaj from the clutches of serpent, various pastimes in solitary places, the killing of Sangachuda and Hori, the killing of Arishtasura, the killing of Kesi, that is known as Dhenukasura. Yaad aa gaya mujhe. Dhenukasura. Dhenuk. The appearance of Shri Narad Muni and the description of the year in which the book was completed. Okay, this was the first part. In the second part, known as Uttar Champu, the following subject matters were discussed: the attraction of Brajabhumi, the cruel activities of Akrura, Krishna's departure for Mathura, description of city of Mathura, the killing of Kamsa. This is like entering Mathura. Nanda Maharaj separation from Krishna and Balram, Nanda Maharaj and Prince of Vrindavan without Krishna and Balram, the studies of Krishna and Balram, how the son of teacher of Krishna and Balram was returned, Uddhav visit to Vrindavan, Radharani is talking to the messenger of Bumblebee, the return of Uddhav from Vrindavan, the binding of Jarasangha, the killing of Yavana Jarasangha, the marriage of Balram, the marriage of Rukmani, the 7 marriages of Krishna, the killing of Narakasura, the taking of Parijata flower from the heaven, and Krishna's marriage with 16,000 princes, victory over Banasura, a description of Balaram's return to Braj, the killing of Paundraka, the killing of Dvida, and thoughts of Hastinapur, departure for Kurukshetra, how the residents of Vrindavan and Dwarka met at Kurukshetra, Krishna's consultation with Uddhav, deliverance of the kings, performance of the Rajasriya sacrifice, deliverance of which king? That is Jarasakha, right? The killing of Salva, Krishna's considering returning to Vrindavan, Krishna revisiting Vrindavan. Now, this is the place which is not discussed elaborately by Sukadeva Goswami, that after returning, after killing Salva, that is the last demon, Krishna re-enters Vrindavan. This all the Acharya Sakari, this Jiva Goswami writes it elaborating Gopal Champu. And also gives detailed analysis of the same while he gives the commentary to these portions in 10th Canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So Krishna revisited Vrindavan, and the adjustments and obstructions by Srimati Radharani and others, everything completed. That means what? Things are adjusted, right? The residence of Radha and Madhava, decorating Srimati Radharani and Krishna, the marriage ceremony of Radharani and Krishna, meeting of Radharani and Krishna, and then they enter Golok Vrindavan. Hari Bol. So Krishna goes, and Krishna sends Radharani and all the associates in Vrindavan who were crying for 80 years in separation of Krishna back to Golok. Ei mat nana grantha kariya prakash goshti sahite kaila Vrindavane vas. So like this, he wrote lots of books. Thus, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and their nephew Srila Jiva Goswami, as well as practically all their family members, lived in Vrindavan and published important books on devotional service. Prathama Vastare Advaitadi Bhaktagana Prabhure Dekhite Kaila Neelandri Gamana. The first year after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order of life, all the devotees headed by Sri Advaita went to see Lord at Jagannath Puri. So now, after detailed analysis of what was given by the various devotees, now from 46th verse, what is happening is Lord Chaitanya's absorption and ecstasy of gopis, that is given. And how is he going to the highest of the ecstasies? This is happening after Lord Chaitanya left for South India, just after 2 months of stay in Puri, and then returned after 2 years, that was 1512 AD. Because he took sannyas in 1510, and he went to South India and returned back after 2 years, that was 1512 AD. So after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu announced out of life, all devotees want to see the Lord Jagannath Puri. Rath Yatra Dekita Rahila Charimas Prabhu Sange Nritya Gita Parama Ullas. After attending Rath Yatra ceremony, Jagannath Puri, all the devotees remained there for 4 months, greatly enjoying the company of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by performing kirtan, that is chanting and dancing. Vidya Samaya Prabhu Kahila, Vidaya Samaya Prabhu Kahila Sabare, Pratyabda Ashibe Sabe Gundicha Dekhi Bare. At the time of departure, Lord requested all the devotees, please come here every year to see Rath Yatra festival of Lord Jagannath's journey to the Gundicha temple. There is a temple named as Gundicha and Sundarachal, that means Nilachal. Lord Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra are pushed in their 3 carts, pulled actually, from the temple in Puri to Gundicha temple in Sundarachal. In Orissa. This Rath Yatra festival is known as Jagannath's journey to Gundicha, which is going to happen very soon. Whereas other devotees speak of it as Rath Yatra festival, the residents of Orissa refer to Gundicha Yatra. Yeah. So that's also insight. Prabhu Agya Bhakta Gana Pratya Prabhu Agya Bhakta Gana Pratya Vad Ashiya Gundicha Dekhiya Yaha Prabhu Re Miliya. Following the orders of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees used to visit Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu every year. They would see Gundicha festival at Jagannath Puri and then return home after 4 months. And today's last verse we will do. Vishma Vimsati Vatsara Aiche Kaila Gatagati Anyonye Duhara Duha Vinash Nahi Sthiti. For 20 consecutive years, this meeting took place, and the situation became so intense that the Lord and the devotees could not be happy without meeting one another. So this is from 1512 to 1531. Every year, devotees were visiting daily. I mean, every year coming for 4 months to experience this kind of a bliss. From 1512 AD to 1531 AD. 20 years. Right. So thank you very much. We will stop here, and thank you for your visibility, availability, encouragement, and we will continue this for next 10 days further. We will speak in English only, and we will do today. We could do 50 verses. I don't know how many verses we can do later. Next tomorrow, whatever Krishna allows. We're just reading Chaitanya Charitamrita is nectar. How much you can take, that's up to you. But I am wanting to take, so I am taking your association with the same. Thank you very much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami jai. Hare Krishna.